Marcus Washington pulled her from the wreckage, his legs shattered beneath a fallen beam, 10 seconds until the gas line ignited. The boardroom where billionaires decided the fate of thousands had become a death trap, flames consuming 42nd floor glass walls faster than sprinklers could compensate. Kate Sterling, CEO, $800 million future mapped in quarterly projections, lay unconscious on marble flooring, smoke inhalation shutting down her respiratory system. 30 seconds of oxygen remained in lungs that had never known manual labor, never gasped for air in anything but spin class. The fire escape blocked. Main exit consumed, no way out. That's when he appeared. Marcus Washington, night janitor, $34,000 annual salary before taxes. Nobody noticed him during executive meetings. Nobody asked his opinion on strategic initiatives. Nobody knew the medals buried in his bedroom closet or the promises he'd made over his wife's hospital bed 3 years prior. Staff Sergeant Marine Corps medic, 8 years of combat zones where equipment failed and lives hung on improvisation. 45 seconds to save. His military training didn't ask permission, didn't calculate. Cost just moved. 20 seconds. Falling debris, a choice crystallizing in smoke-filled air. Drop her, save himself, return to his daughter who'd already lost one parent. Or risk everything for a woman who probably couldn't pick him from a lineup of building maintenance staff. He chose her. Explosion, white flash, hard cut to darkness. 2 weeks earlier, Marcus Washington's life followed patterns worn smooth by repetition. Alarm clock 6:15 a.m., never variation. Small 2-bedroom apartment in Queens 1400, monthly rent, consuming half his paycheck, the kind of place where neighbors heard arguments through walls and nobody made eye contact in hallways. Photos covered every available surface, young Marine in dress blues, wedding day with Sarah's laugh, frozen mid-joy baby Zoe wrapped in hospital blankets. 3 years ago, he'd possessed future tense career trajectory plans extending past next month's bills. Then Sarah died. Car accident police report listing brake line failure, suspicious circumstances that led nowhere despite Detective Rivera's best efforts. Marcus knew, someone from his past, someone he'd crossed during deployment, someone with resources and patience and willingness to murder an accountant who'd never held a weapon. He'd faced a choice then too, stay in military, keep investigating, paint a target on his 8-year-old daughter's back, or disappear, become invisible. Keep Zoe safe by erasing Marcus Washington from any database that mattered. He chose invisibility. Discharged papers, filed medals, stored in drawer beneath winter sweaters, skills cultivated over 8 years of saving lives in Afghanistan, relegated to memory. The janitor job at Monarch Industries paid enough for rent and groceries occasionally, both in the same month. Nobody asked about his past. Nobody cared. Perfect. Zoe's bedroom door decorated with butterfly stickers. She'd placed herself open to reveal his daughter, clutching a stuffed bunny, worn threadbare from 3 years of grief management. Her voice carried sleep and hope in equal measure. 5 more minutes, Daddy. Same negotiation every morning, same answer required. Already made breakfast, baby girl. Heart-shaped pancakes. Zoe's face transformed joy, pushing aside whatever dreams had occupied the previous 8 hours. She descended on the kitchen table where Marcus had arranged pancakes into a pattern Sarah used to make back when mornings included 2 parents and futures that extended past weekly survival. You made Mama's heart pancakes. Special day. Maya's moving to California next week, remember? The joy evaporated, replaced by the particular grief only 8-year-olds experienced, each friendship loss feeling like the final one, evidence that everyone eventually left. Zoe stared at her plate, not eating, processing the mathematics of abandonment. Marcus knelt beside her chair. Eye level, the position he'd learned in parenting books checked out from the library because therapy cost $200 per session and groceries cost $150 per week. I know it's hard, sweetheart, but Mama used to say something about people we love. Zoe recited the words she'd memorized, the catechism of their grief. People you love never really leave. They stay in your heart. That's right. Maya will always be your friend, and you'll make new friends. Zoe hugged him, small arms wrapping around his neck, trust so complete it terrified him daily. The weight of being someone's entire world pressed against his chest. Daddy, you won't leave me too, right? The question sliced deeper than any combat injury. 3 years of maintaining composure, of being strong for her, of swallowing his own grief so she could process hers. 3 years of promises made to Sarah's memory commitments to be enough parent for two. Never, I promise. You and me forever. A promise he'd kept through double shifts and missed meals and exhaustion so profound, he sometimes forgot what rested felt like. Worked 2 jobs, no social life, no dating despite Mrs. Chen's continuous attempts at matchmaking with her niece, who worked at the hospital. Just him and Zoe's sufficient universe. His phone buzzed. Text message, unknown number the third that week. Same warning each time, same implications that invisibility had failed. We know where you are. She's in danger. Marcus's body shifted into threat assessment mode, the training that never quite left that lurked beneath civilian surface waiting for activation. He scanned the apartment exits, weapons evacuation routes. Not again. Not after 3 years of careful anonymity. School drop-off happened in Marcus's 15-year-old Honda Civic rust spots and dented door marking it clearly among the parade of newer vehicles in the PS 118 elementary parking lot. Other parents emerged from cars that cost more than his annual salary wearing clothes that signaled time for morning yoga and lunch meetings, lives uncomplicated by deciding between electricity and groceries. Zoe spotted Maya with her mother, excitement overriding earlier sadness. Daddy, can Maya come over after school? Please, baby, I work tonight. Mrs. Chen is watching you. Disappointment settled across her features. The look that made him question every choice, every sacrifice, every decision to remain invisible instead of leveraging skills that could command six-figure consulting fees. Tell you what, Saturday we'll have Maya over all day. Pizza, movies, whatever you want. The transformation was immediate, pure joy, replacing disappointment, the resilience of children who believe promises. Really? Really? Now go. You're late. Zoe ran toward the school entrance, backpack bouncing, then turned back with the ritual they'd maintained since kindergarten. I love you, Daddy. Love you more. Baby girl. He watched until she disappeared inside, then checked his phone again. The message remained cryptic and threatening. Marcus dialed Detective Rivera, the one person who'd never stopped investigating Sarah's death, who believed brake lines didn't cut themselves. Monarch Industries Tower rose 50 stories above Manhattan glass and steel monument to corporate America. The kind of building where decisions made in boardrooms rippled through thousands of lives while janitors emptied trash and mopped floors and remained functionally invisible. Marcus worked the 42nd floor executive territory, where meetings discussed human resources while he cleaned around participants who never acknowledged his presence. To them, he was furniture. Part of the infrastructure no more notable than the air conditioning. They conducted conversations about company values while he mopped their spills, discussed strategic initiatives while he replaced paper towels, made decisions affecting thousands while he emptied their waste. He heard everything. They noticed nothing. Perfect arrangement for someone who'd spent 3 years cultivating invisibility. Perfect arrangement until he noticed the document left on the conference table marked confidential detailing, Project Phoenix, and $60 million in investment that would transform Sterling Medical's market position. The kind of document that should have been secured, that represented the casual arrogance of executives who assumed janitorial staff couldn't read balance sheets or understand financial implications. Marcus noticed. Marcus always noticed. Staff Sergeant Washington had survived 3 tours by noticing details others overlooked, by seeing patterns in chaos, by understanding that small oversights led to catastrophic failures. That document would change everything. But first, he had to save a life. Most nights by 9 p.m., the tower emptied, executives departing for penthouses and townhouses and lives that didn't include overtime. But tonight felt different. Lights remained active on 42, unusual for a Tuesday, suggesting someone had stayed late, someone driven enough or desperate enough to work past reasonable hours. Kate Sterling embodied both. 34 years old, CEO of Sterling Medical Technologies, $800 million net worth, built from zero through pure force of will and strategic brilliance. She'd founded the company at 24 with inheritance money and an idea everyone called impossible. 20 years of 16-hour days, 7-day weeks, relationships sacrificed to quarterly projections. They called her the Ice Queen. She'd earned it through boardroom efficiency and emotional distance that kept everyone at arm's length. Her phone conversation echoed through empty executive suite voice, cold and controlled and utterly certain. I don't care what the FDA says, Robert. Push the approval through. We launch in 3 months. Her father's voice crackled through speakerphone, concern wrapped in surgical precision. Catherine rushing this could what cost us the quarter? I'll take that risk. Good night, father. She disconnected, rubbed temples that ached from tension and too much screen time, and the weight of being responsible for 400 employees and their families and their mortgages and their children's college funds. 34 years old, never married, no close friends beyond professional acquaintances, just work and more work, and the lie she told herself about fulfillment. Late at night in empty boardrooms, the lie grew harder to maintain. 9:57 p.m. Electrical panel in the wall, faulty wiring that building management had scheduled for updates before deciding cost-cutting made better financial sense. Sparks, then smoke, then fire spreading through ventilation systems designed for efficiency rather than safety. Kate noticed the smell, first acrid and wrong, standing from her desk as smoke began seeping through ceiling vents. The fire alarm's sudden blare made her jump, instinct driving her toward the door before her hand touched metal hot enough to burn. She pulled back, staring at blistering palm, then at smoke pouring under the door flames visible through reinforced glass that wouldn't break, regardless of how many times she struck it with a desk chair. The 42nd floor server room fire spreading through ventilation had become a trap. Kate Sterling, who'd built an empire through careful planning and risk calculation, suddenly possessed 2 minutes of breathable air and zero escape options. She sank to the floor, pulled her suit jacket over her face, and waited for fire department response that wouldn't arrive in time. 2 floors below, Marcus heard the alarm. Building PA system automated voice instructions drilled into every employee: evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Protocol was clear. Janitorial staff evacuate, don't play hero. Let professionals handle emergencies. Marcus moved toward the stairwell, then stopped. Lights on 42, he'd seen them while cleaning. Executives were supposed to be gone. But he'd seen lights, which meant someone remained, someone who might not have time to wait for professional response. Every instinct from 8 years of military service kicked in simultaneously. Never leave a man behind. Never assume someone else will handle it. Never wait when action might save a life. The elevator doors opened. Smoke filled the hallway, thick enough to obscure visibility, hot enough to make breathing painful. Marcus pulled his shirt over his nose, stayed low, where air remained marginally cleaner, and moved. Staff Sergeant Washington, Marine medic, took command where Marcus Washington, janitor, had hesitated. He checked doors systematically, methodically, ignoring his body's demands to retreat to safety. The boardroom smoke, so thick he almost missed her. Kate Sterling collapsed on marble flooring, unconscious, pulse weak but present beneath his fingers. 60 seconds remained before smoke, inhalation, became irreversible. Ma'am, can you hear me? No response. Marcus calculated options with combat-trained efficiency. Left hallway consumed by flames. Right hallway showing smoke but no visible fire. Stairwell approximately 40 feet. His body capable of carrying her weight despite injuries that would make themselves known later. He lifted her in a fireman's carry. Sarah's weight, Zoe's weight, everyone he'd ever carried from danger, consolidating into this moment. This choice, this woman who'd never noticed him, despite months of cleaning her office. 30 seconds. A beam fell ahead, blocking the path, forcing recalculation. Emergency door to the right stairwell, access 20 feet. Marcus kicked it open, smoke billowing around them, and stumbled into the stairwell as the explosion behind them blew out windows and sent fireball toward the ceiling. The explosion saved them, blasting fresh air into the corridor, giving Marcus the oxygen needed to descend 3 flights before first responders met them at floor 38. Sir, we've got her. Are you hurt? Marcus's arm was bleeding, burn pain registering now that adrenaline began fading. He barely noticed, focused instead on Kate Sterling as paramedics placed her on a stretcher. Oxygen mask, vital signs checked with practiced efficiency. I'm fine. Take care of her. Kate's eyes fluttered open, brief moment of consciousness, 3 seconds of eye contact where she saw the man who'd carried her from death. Then paramedics wheeled her away, and Marcus disappeared into the chaos. Anonymous hero who'd done his job and wanted no recognition, no attention, no visibility that might endanger the daughter waiting at home. Presbyterian Hospital, 11:30 p.m. Kate Sterling in a private room. Minor burns treated, smoke inhalation, monitored, prognosis excellent. Her father, Robert Sterling, arrived within 20 minutes. Surgeon who taught her that efficiency mattered more than emotion, that success required sacrifice, that love was something other people indulged. Catherine, thank God you're alive. Kate stared at the ceiling, mind replaying those final moments before unconsciousness. The sensation of being carried, the face she'd glimpsed before darkness claimed her. The janitor. Where is he? What, the man who saved me? I need to thank him. Robert's confusion was genuine, disconnected from any reality where janitorial staff performed heroics. The fire department, no. Before the fire department, a man in a janitor uniform, he carried me out. The nurse checked her chart, professional and thorough and certain. There's no record of anyone else treated Ms. Sterling. Are you sure? Kate's frustration mounted certainty, colliding with official record. I saw him, I saw his face. But Marcus Washington had vanished. Completed his task, saved a life, returned to his daughter. That's what Marines did. Complete the mission, fade into background, let others take credit. Visibility meant danger. Anonymity meant Zoe stayed safe. Marcus's apartment, midnight. Mrs. Chen on the couch, television playing news coverage of the tower fire. Zoe asleep in her room with her stuffed bunny and dreams uncomplicated by adult fears. Marcus, what happened to your arm? Mrs. Chen's eyes fixed on the bandage, concern overriding her usual discretion about personal matters. Small accident at work. I'm fine, Mrs. Chen. Thank you for staying late. She accepted payment in his obvious lie with equal grace, understanding that sometimes parents needed privacy to process trauma before sharing it with children. After she left, Marcus checked on Zoe, sleeping peacefully, unaware her father had nearly died, that invisibility had failed, that his face was now in security footage and incident reports. He sat on her bed, kissed her forehead, whispered promises into the quiet darkness. I love you, baby girl. Always. In the bathroom, he removed the bandage, revealed second-degree burns that would mark him as the tower hero if anyone looked closely. He treated the wounds himself. Military first aid kit, deployed skills honed in field hospitals where supplies ran short and improvisation meant survival. He'd had worse. Afghanistan IED blast, 4 men saved. Medal awarded. This was nothing. Just another day keeping people safe, another crisis managed, another reason to remain invisible. Next morning, television news played while Zoe ate cereal, footage of the tower fire, speculation about causes and heroes, and near tragedy averted. Daddy, look, that's your building. Marcus saw Kate Sterling's photo professional headshot that captured none of the vulnerability he'd witnessed, the woman he'd carried, now restored to CEO status and boardroom composure. The news anchor's voice carried practiced concern. Sterling Medical CEO Kate Sterling credits a mysterious hero for saving her life. Authorities are searching for the man who Marcus turned off the television. Time for school, Zoe. But Daddy, that's where you work. Did you see the fire? Everyone got out safe. That's what matters. Zoe studied his bandaged arm with 8-year-old perception that saw through adult deflection. Daddy, how did you hurt your arm? Marcus's lie came easily, practiced over 3 years of hiding truth to protect her. Bumped it on a cart. Clumsy. Zoe didn't believe him, but didn't push, understanding at some level that adults sometimes needed their secrets. That fathers who'd lost wives carried burdens children couldn't help shoulder. Okay, Daddy, she knew. Not the details, not the specifics, but the essential truth her father was hiding. Something connected to the fire, something he thought she was too young to understand. She was 8. But she knew her father better than anyone could, read his expressions and silences and the way he held himself when fear threatened composure. What Zoe didn't know was that her father's past was catching up, that the woman he'd saved was about to turn his invisible life upside down, that choices made in smoke and fire would cascade through both their lives in ways neither could anticipate. Kate's office next day, arm in a sling, determination overriding doctors' recommendations about rest. Private investigator Michael Torres sat across from her, professional and efficient and accustomed to wealthy clients who demanded results. I want to find him. The janitor who saved me. Ma'am, building records show I know what the records show. Find him anyway. Check security footage. Employee records. Someone knows who he is. Michael nodded, accepting the assignment, understanding that Kate Sterling was accustomed to getting what she wanted: money, power, success, information. But she'd never wanted to find someone so badly, never felt this particular urgency. Gratitude, certainly. But something else lurked beneath, something she couldn't articulate. For 3 seconds in smoke and chaos, being carried by a stranger, she'd felt safe, protected, for the first time since her mother died 22 years ago. She touched her throat, remembering the sensation, the arms that held her, the calm competence in crisis. Kate Sterling had built an empire through calculation and control. But calculation hadn't saved her. Control hadn't mattered. A janitor had saved her, someone she'd never noticed despite months of him cleaning her office, someone who'd risked everything for a woman who probably couldn't pick him from a lineup. She needed to know why, needed to understand what motivated that kind of selflessness, needed to find him before the feeling faded and she returned to the isolated existence that passed for her life. 5 floors down, Richard Ashford sat in his CFO office, watching news coverage and calculating implications. Richard, 48 years old, Kate's ex-fiancé from 5 years ago, the man she'd agreed to marry before seeing what he really wanted, her company, not her. 3 months engaged, then broken off, her explanation careful and final. I'm not ready. Truth was, she'd seen through him, recognized the ambition that viewed marriage as merger romance, as strategic acquisition. Richard had never forgiven that rejection. 5 years of working alongside her, maintaining professional courtesy, hiding rage beneath corporate efficiency. 5 years of planning, stealing, positioning himself for the moment when he could take what should have been his. His phone call was brief, voice low, instructions clear. She's looking for the janitor, the one from the fire. I want everything on him. Past, present, family. Everything. The voice on the other end asked the obvious question. Why? Because Kate Sterling, obsessed with a working-class nobody. That's leverage. Find him. Richard's computer screen displayed Project Phoenix files, shell companies' transfers hidden in legitimate expenses. $60 million over 4 years, sophisticated enough that auditors missed it, careful enough that only someone with access to source code could trace the pattern. In 3 months, his takeover plan would execute, board vote, force Kate out, take control. But if she got distracted, if she started focusing elsewhere, if a janitor hero occupied her attention, perfect. He needed Kate's focus somewhere else. And a janitor hero was the perfect distraction. Security footage played on Michael Torres' laptop, grainy video, showing Marcus carrying Kate Sterling from the boardroom, face partially obscured by smoke, but recognizable to anyone looking carefully. Michael enhanced the image, ran facial recognition, and found the name buried in employee records. Marcus Washington, night janitor hired 8 months ago, background check clean, references adequate. But the interesting part emerged when Michael dug deeper, when he accessed databases that required authorization Kate's money could buy. Military records. Staff Sergeant Marcus Washington, Marine Corps medic, decorated multiple combat tours. Discharged 3 years ago under honorable conditions, commendations for valor, exemplary service record. Then nothing. 3 years of civilian life as a janitor, massive downgrade from military career, no explanation in official files. Michael called Kate with his findings, professional and thorough, and wondering why a decorated Marine would be mopping floors. Found him, Marcus Washington, night janitor. But here's the interesting part, former Marine. Staff Sergeant, medic, decorated, multiple combat tours. Kate's breath caught. A Marine, not just a janitor. Someone who'd saved lives professionally, who'd trained for exactly the kind of crisis that had occurred. Discharged 3 years ago. Wife died in a car accident. Single father. 1 daughter. Lives in Queens. Miss Sterling. This man is not exactly low profile. Or he wasn't. Kate stared at the file. Michael sent split-screen images showing the contrast: Marcus in Marine dress blues, young and proud and full of future. Then Marcus in janitor uniform. Older, tired eyes that had seen too much. What happened to you, Marcus Washington? What made a decorated Marine become invisible? She picked up her phone, decision made with characteristic speed. Get me his home address. I'm going to thank him personally. Kate Sterling was about to walk into Marcus Washington's life. Nothing would ever be the same. Marcus's apartment building, Saturday afternoon. Kate's car pulling up outside, expensive sedan that announced wealth and status and complete disconnect from this neighborhood. She emerged carrying a gift basket assembled by her assistant, $500 of gourmet items that represented thoughtfulness by proxy. Kate had never been to Queens, never visited a building where rent was $1,400 monthly and hallway lighting flickered. An elevator had been broken for 6 months. She climbed 3 flights of stairs in designer heels, found apartment 3C, knocked twice. Marcus opened the door, saw her, experience several seconds of complete disorientation. Kate Sterling, at his apartment. in Queens. The CEO, he'd saved the woman who represented everything he'd left behind when he chose invisibility, standing in his hallway, holding a gift basket that probably cost more than his weekly groceries. Ms. Sterling, what are you doing here? Before he could process further, Zoe appeared behind him. 8-year-old curiosity overriding shyness. Daddy, who's the pretty lady? Kate saw Zoe, saw the drawings on the refrigerator, saw the life Marcus had built in this small apartment, and something inside her shifted. Not calculation, not strategy, just pure human response to a child's innocent question and a father's protective stance. I came to say thank you. You saved my life. Zoe's eyes went wide, television news connecting to present reality. Daddy, you're the hero from TV. Marcus's face showed conflict, pride that his daughter saw him as hero, terror. That visibility endangered them both, frustration that his carefully maintained anonymity had shattered. Ms. Sterling, you shouldn't have come here. But she had. And standing in that doorway, seeing the real Marcus Washington instead of the invisible janitor, Kate Sterling, began to understand that heroism wasn't about training or medals or corporate recognition. It was about choosing repeatedly to show up for the people who mattered. Can I come in? Marcus hesitated, then stepped aside, allowing Kate into the small apartment that contained his entire life. Zoe's drawings, Sarah's photos, worn furniture that was clean but old, the whole space maybe 900 square feet compared to Kate's penthouse that occupied an entire floor. Kate noticed everything. The warmth despite cramped quarters, the evidence of life, fully lived memories displayed without apology. Her penthouse had none of that minimalist design, expensive furniture, zero personal touches. This apartment, this tiny space in Queens, felt more like home than anywhere she'd ever lived. Zoe stared at Kate with a directness only children managed. No filter, no social calculation. Are you the billionaire lady? Kate laughed, genuine sound that surprised her. I suppose I am. Yes, you're really pretty. Why do you look sad? Marcus intervened, mortified by his daughter's perceptiveness. Zoe, honey, give Miss Sterling space. Kate knelt to Zoe's level, meeting her eyes, recognizing wisdom that exceeded 8 years. I'm not sad, just tired, long day. Zoe tilted her head, considered this answer, rejected it. Daddy says that when he's sad but doesn't want me to worry. Kate and Marcus locked eyes, then moment of recognition passing between them. She saw his exhaustion, his constant vigilance, his love for Zoe that overrode everything else. He saw her loneliness, her walls, her desperate need for something authentic in a life constructed entirely from professional achievements. 3 seconds in the fire had created connection. But here in safety of his home, they had time to really see each other. Kate saw strength, integrity, tiredness, devotion. Marcus saw isolation, competence, wealth that brought no happiness, walls built so high she'd forgotten how to climb down. Neither looked away. Neither wanted to break the moment, the understanding that something significant was happening, something neither could name, but both felt. Zoe broke the silence, tugging Kate's hand. Do you want to see my drawings? Kate followed Zoe to a small table covered in artwork, Marcus trailing behind, uncertain how this scenario had overtaken his Saturday afternoon. The gift basket sat forgotten on the kitchen counter, expensive gesture that suddenly felt inadequate. Zoe spread her artwork across the table, narration accompanying each piece. This one is Daddy when he was in the Marines. See his uniform? The drawing showed stick figure Marcus in military dress, American flag beside him, pride evident in every crayon stroke. This one is Mama, before she went to heaven. The drawing showed a beautiful woman with angel wings, heart drawn around her love, transcending death through a child's art. Kate touched the drawing gently, emotion threatening composure. Your mama was beautiful, Zoe. Daddy says she's always with us, in our hearts. The catechism they developed, the way they managed grief, exposed now to a stranger who'd inserted herself into their Saturday afternoon. Zoe picked up blank paper, made decision with 8-year-old certainty. Can I draw you? Kate's surprise was genuine, vulnerable in ways boardroom negotiations never accessed. Me. Yeah, you're pretty. And you made Daddy smile. He doesn't smile much anymore. Marcus felt his face warming, embarrassment mixing with recognition that Zoe had identified something he'd tried to hide, that Kate Sterling's presence affected him, that saving her life had created connection he couldn't dismiss. Zoe? Kate sat, decision made, allowing an 8-year-old girl to draw her while Marcus made tea in the background, and the afternoon stretched into something neither adult had anticipated. For 15 minutes, Kate Sterling sat still. No meetings, no calls, no agenda. Just present, watching Zoe work, feeling Marcus's eyes on her, occasionally experiencing quiet that wasn't isolation, but companionship. Zoe finished, held up her creation with pride. The drawing showed three figures: Marcus, Kate, Zoe holding hands, house behind them, sun above, hearts everywhere. Caption in careful child handwriting, "My family." Kate's breath caught tears forming before she could prevent them. "Zoe, why did you put me in your family?" Zoe's wisdom emerged innocent and profound simultaneously. "Because families choose each other. Daddy told me that. And I choose you." The tears fell. Then Kate's control breaking, first time she'd cried in years. Not sad tears, not grief tears, but tears of recognition that something she'd never known she needed was being offered by a child who barely knew her. Marcus stepped forward, gentle but firm. "Zoe, Miss Sterling has her own family." Zoe interrupted, looking at Kate with perception that cut through an adult deflection. "Does she? Do you miss Kate?" Kate couldn't answer, couldn't speak through the emotion overwhelming her. Kate Sterling had everything, except this: a child's unconditional acceptance, a family. Marcus walked Kate to the door, both processing what had happened, both uncertain how to acknowledge it. "I apologize for Zoe. She's had a hard time since her mother passed. Sometimes she latches onto people." Kate found her voice shaky but determined. "Please don't apologize. She's wonderful. You've raised an incredible daughter, Mr. Washington." Marcus. Just Marcus. "And I'm Kate. Just Kate." Moment of connection, eye contact extending past comfortable duration. Recognition passing between them. That saving her life had been the beginning of something neither could define yet. "Can I ask you something? Well, why did you leave the Marines?" Marcus's face closed off, walls rising reflexively. "That's complicated. You don't have to answer. I just looked into you. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to know who saved me." Marcus tensed, visibility suddenly feeling like threat. "What did you find, Staff Sergeant?" "Multiple decorations." "Medic, you saved lives for 8 years. Then you just stopped." Marcus looked back at Zoe, lowered his voice to ensure she couldn't hear. "I didn't stop. I just changed who I'm protecting now." Kate understood then. Not the details, not the specifics, but the essential truth: protecting people you love sometimes meant sacrificing everything else, becoming invisible, accepting less than you deserved. She understood because she'd done similar calculation, though in reverse, sacrificing human connection for professional achievement, becoming so visible in business she'd disappeared as a person. "Marcus, if you ever need anything, anything at all, you have my number now." Marcus's pride surfaced, the Marine who'd never asked for help. "I appreciate that, but we're fine." Kate saw his walls, his determination to remain independent, his fear that accepting help meant owing something. "I know you are, but the offer stands." She walked to her car heels, clicking on pavement, expensive sedan, starting with quiet efficiency. Marcus watched from the window, Zoe beside him, both processing the afternoon's unexpected development. "Daddy, do you like her?" Marcus chose words carefully, deflection disguised as honesty. "She seems like a kind person." Zoe's perception cut through evasion. "I think she's lonely, like we were after Mama died." Marcus looked down at his daughter, realized she'd diagnosed Kate Sterling's deepest wound in 30 minutes, while corporate therapists and business consultants had probably missed it for decades. "What makes you say that?" Her eyes. "They're sad, even when she smiles, out of the mouths of babes." Zoe Washington had seen what Marcus was too guarded to acknowledge, that Kate Sterling needed them as much as they might need her. That connection worked both directions, that saving someone's life sometimes meant letting them save yours in return. His phone buzzed. Detective Rivera calling with news about Sarah's case about facial recognition, hits and suspects identified. Marcus answered, aware that his invisible life was unraveling, that choices made 3 years ago were colliding with present reality. The text messages, the tower fire, Kate Sterling showing up at his apartment, none of it was coincidence. Someone was watching. Someone wanted him visible. Question was whether that someone was friend or enemy, whether the danger he'd run from was returning or had never really left. Detective Rivera's voice carried weight accumulated over 3 years of dead ends and bureaucratic obstacles, frustration tempered by professional persistence, that refused to accept convenient explanations for brake lines that didn't fail spontaneously. Marcus, we got a break. Facial recognition hit on footage from 3 years ago. Man tampering with your car the day before Sarah's accident. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. Zoe still beside him at the window, watching Kate's sedan disappear into Queens traffic. He moved to his bedroom, closed the door, voice dropping to the controlled calm that preceded violence in men trained to kill efficiently. Who is he? Tyler Brooks, former Marine, dishonorable discharge 2018, works private security now, which is code for mercenary work. Marcus, you know him, Afghanistan. He was taking kickbacks from warlords selling intelligence. I reported him. He threatened me. The pieces assembled with brutal clarity. Tyler Brooks hadn't made empty threats, hadn't forgotten the staff sergeant who'd ended his profitable side business and destroyed his military career. He'd waited, planned, then murdered Sarah Washington to punish the man who'd cost him everything. Can you prove it? Footage puts him at the scene. His connection to you establishes motive. We can build a case, but Marcus, here's the problem. Brooks disappeared 2 weeks ago. No trace. Could be he heard we were looking, could be someone paid him to vanish. Either way, whoever hired him might still be active. The implications crystallize with horrifying precision. Someone had paid Brooks to kill Sarah. That someone might still want Marcus dead, might still view Zoe as leverage or target. 3 years of invisibility, 3 years of careful anonymity, and he'd been visible the entire time to whoever orchestrated Sarah's murder. What do you need from me? Stay alert. Keep Zoe close. And Marcus, if Brooks resurfaces, don't engage. Call me immediately. This goes through proper channels. Marcus agreed because Rivera needed to hear agreement, because proper channels satisfied departmental protocol. But both men understood that if Tyler Brooks appeared near Zoe, proper channels wouldn't matter. Marcus would do what Marines did when threats emerged, eliminate them permanently. 2 days later, Kate's crisis erupted during emergency board meeting. Executives assembled to address FDA concerns about Project Phoenix, the medical device that represented Sterling Medical's future and $200 million in projected revenue. The delivery mechanism kept failing. 1 in 50 uses, unacceptable failure rate for diabetic patients whose lives depended on precise insulin dosing. Board members argued, engineers defended their work. Richard Ashford seized opportunity to undermine Kate's leadership with carefully constructed concern that masked ambition. I warned about rushing this to market. Now we're facing regulatory delays that could cost the quarter. Kate ignored him, mind working through options with characteristic speed. The FDA's concerns were mechanical, not pharmaceutical. She needed engineering expertise outside her compromised internal team, fresh perspective, uncorrupted by institutional blindness. An idea formed reckless and brilliant simultaneously. Who's the best mechanical engineer consultant in the city? Board members exchanged confused glances. They had engineers on staff, expensive degrees from prestigious universities, people whose entire careers focused on exactly this problem. We have engineers who designed the flawed system. I need outside eyes, someone who thinks differently. Richard's objection was immediate territorial instinct, recognizing threat. Kate, we can't bring in outside consultants this late. The proprietary concerns alone. Kate picked up her phone, decision made, ignoring Richard's protest and board members' skepticism. She was about to shock everyone, including herself. Marcus's phone rang during his shift, mopping executive floors, while invisible to the people whose decisions shaped thousands of lives. Caller ID showed Kate Sterling, unexpected contact that violated the careful distance he'd maintained since her apartment visit. Ms. Sterling, Marcus, I need your help. Professional help. I'll pay you. His confusion was genuine, unable to imagine what professional help a janitor could offer a CEO. I'm not sure what kind of help. You're not a janitor. You're a Marine. You fix field equipment in combat zones. I looked at your records. You have mechanical engineering training. Marcus stopped mopping, memory flooding back 8 years of maintaining equipment in conditions that destroyed machinery, improvising repairs with inadequate supplies, keeping critical systems functional through understanding of basic principles and creative problem solving. That was a long time ago. I have a medical device, $200 million project. The delivery mechanism keeps failing. My engineers can't figure it out. I need someone who thinks differently. who sees what they're missing. The offer was insane, crossing every professional boundary, violating corporate protocol. But Kate Sterling's desperation was audible, her willingness to risk everything on a janitor's forgotten skills, speaking to depths of crisis her carefully controlled public persona never revealed. Ms. Sterling, I have Zoe, my work schedule. Bring her. I'll provide childcare, the best in the city. Please, Marcus, give me one afternoon. The silence stretched while Marcus calculated Zoe's college fund that existed only in theory bills, that accumulated faster than paychecks future, that looked exactly like present unless something changed. Kate Sterling was offering change visibility risk, everything he'd avoided for 3 years. But she'd asked, and something about her voice, the vulnerability beneath professional competence, made refusal feel like cowardice. One afternoon, that's all. Kate's relief was palpable even through phone connection. Thank you. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bring Zoe. I promise she'll be safe. Marcus arrived at Sterling Medical Headquarters the next afternoon. Zoe beside him wearing her best dress, eyes wide at the lobby that resembled a palace more than office building. Marble floors, abstract art ceiling that soared 3 stories, everything designed to intimidate and impress in equal measure. Employees stared at Marcus in his janitor uniform, at Zoe clutching his hand at the obvious class disconnect between their appearance and the building's expensive aesthetic. Judgment was visible in eyes that assessed and dismissed in seconds, in whispers that followed them to the elevator, in the social calculus that determined worth based on clothing and occupation. Daddy, this is like a palace. Her wonder was pure and tainted by the judgment surrounding them. Marcus squeezed her hand, protective instinct, heightened by visibility he couldn't control. Kate met them personally, kneeling to Zoe's level with genuine warmth that surprised Marcus and apparently surprised her staff based on their shocked expressions. Zoe, I'm so glad you came. I have something special for you. She led them to a private room that had been converted into a child's paradise. Toys, books, art supplies, everything designed to occupy and delight in our 8-year-old. A professional nanny waited, experienced and kind vetted to Kate's exacting standards. This is Miss Jessica. She'll hang out with you while your dad helps me. Is that okay? Zoe looked at Marcus for permission, their ritual of checking in before any separation, the habit developed through 3 years of being each other's entire world. Can I, Daddy? Marcus addressed the nanny with voice that carried authority, regardless of his janitor uniform. You don't leave her sight, understood? Yes, sir. He kissed Zoe's forehead, their goodbye ritual maintained even in unfamiliar territory. I'll be right down the hall. You need me, you call. Zoe hugged him, then offered wisdom that exceeded her years. I'll be okay, Daddy. Miss Kate will take care of you. The engineering lab occupied the building's 5th floor, sophisticated equipment surrounding a medical device that represented Sterling Medical's future. 3 engineers stood near the workbench, older white men with expensive degrees and obvious skepticism directed at Marcus's presence. The lead engineer's dismissal was barely disguised as inquiry. Kate, this is your solution, a janitor. Kate's response was ice authority that reminded everyone present exactly who controlled this company and their continued employment. Staff Sergeant Marcus Washington, Marine Corps. 8 years field experience. Fixed equipment in conditions you can't imagine. Show respect or leave my lab. The engineers recoiled, shocked at her defense, uncertain how to process a CEO protecting a janitor. Marcus felt gratitude and discomfort simultaneously, appreciation for her support, awareness that her defense made him more visible, more vulnerable to whatever threats were circling. Kate explained the problem with efficient precision, demonstrating the device's intermittent failure, the jamming that occurred without apparent pattern or cause. Engineers had run tests, checked tolerances, analyzed failure modes. Nothing conclusive emerged. Marcus picked up the device, hands remembering skills dormant for 3 years. The weight, the construction, the design philosophy all spoke to him in language he'd learned in field hospitals, where equipment failure meant death. He disassembled it methodically, ignoring the engineer's watchful eyes, ignoring time pressure, focusing entirely on understanding how the device worked and where it failed. 10 minutes passed in silence, broken only by Marcus's careful manipulation of components. He found a tiny valve tolerance rating stamped on the side specification that assumed controlled environment and ignored human variables. Here, this valve. See the tolerance rating. The lead engineer's professional pride warred with curiosity. 0.02 millimeters. Standard for controlled environments. For what temperature range? 68 to 72 Fahrenheit. Why and body temperature? The engineer's face changed as the understanding hit, as the obvious variable they'd all missed suddenly became clear. 98.6. The heat expansion would change the tolerance by 0.015 millimeters, just enough to cause intermittent jamming. You need a heat-resistant alloy valve. Titanium aluminum composite grade 5. The room went silent. The lead engineer pulled out his tablet, ran calculations, frantically checked specifications against Marcus's diagnosis. Minutes passed before he looked up, professional pride completely demolished. He's right. 16 hours of testing, and he found it in 10 minutes. Kate's face showed pride in something deeper, more personal. She'd bet on Marcus risked her credibility and professional reputation, and he delivered results that vindicated her instinct. But more than vindication, she felt attraction to his competence, his quiet confidence, the way he'd transformed from invisible janitor to essential expert in a single afternoon. Richard Ashford chose that moment to enter, having heard about Marcus's presence, about Kate's unprecedented decision to bring a janitor into critical engineering discussions. His territorial instinct recognized threat immediately. Kate, a word. Private. They stepped into the hallway, voices low, but tension visible through glass walls. Marcus could see but not hear their confrontation, could read body language that spoke volumes about Richard's objection and Kate's defiance. What are you doing? Bringing in some janitor to solve our problems. He's not a janitor. He's an engineer, and he just solved a $200 million problem in 10 minutes. Richard's face darkened anger, barely controlled beneath professional veneer. He works night shift mopping floors. What will the board think? I don't care what they think. I care about results. Richard moved closer, voice dropping to dangerous quiet. Kate, we're in delicate negotiations. Image matters. You're spending time with a single father taking his daughter to the office. People talk. Kate's eyes narrowed, instinct recognizing manipulation disguised as concern. What people? Board members, investors. They're concerned you're becoming distracted. By what? Finding competent help by inappropriate relationships. Kate stepped closer, no longer defensive but aggressive authority, meeting territorial challenge. Richard, I'm going to say this once. Marcus Washington saved my life. He just saved our biggest project, and what I do with my personal time is none of your business. Or the board's. Richard's mask slipped, rage visible for a moment before professional control reasserted itself. You'll regret this, Kate. He left fury evident in his stride, leaving Kate to process the confrontation and its implications. She returned to the lab where Marcus had witnessed the entire exchange, had understood the dynamics even without hearing words. Thank you, Marcus. You saved this project. Marcus chose his next words carefully. Military training, recognizing threats, raw civilians often missed. The man you were talking to, ex-fiancé. Kate's surprise was visible. He'd identified their history from body language alone, from territorial displays and possessive anger that transcended professional disagreement. How did you know body language? He's territorial, possessive. You called off the engagement 5 years ago. He's never forgiven me. Should you be worried about him? Kate considered institutional blindness, making her underestimate threats from familiar sources. Richard is ambitious, but he's not dangerous, just bitter. Marcus didn't look convinced. He'd survived combat by trusting instinct, by recognizing when men pose threats, regardless of their professional credentials or civilized veneer. Richard Ashford had the look, barely controlled rage, sense of entitlement, willingness to destroy what he couldn't control. Kate just couldn't see it yet. Payment discussion happened in Kate's office, professional transaction that nonetheless carried undertones of something more personal, more complicated than simple business arrangement. $5,000 for your consultation. Marcus stared at the check amount representing months of janitor salary, Zoe's college fund, becoming real instead of theoretical aspiration. This is too much. I was here 2 hours. You saved a $200 million project. That's worth significantly more. Please take it. Marcus thought about Zoe, about the future he wanted to provide, about pride versus practicality. But accepting charity felt wrong, felt like confirmation of the class divide that separated him from Kate's world. One condition: hire me as a consultant, pay me fairly. But I'm not a charity case. Kate's respect was visible attraction, deepening as she recognized that Marcus understood his value, that poverty hadn't destroyed his dignity. Deal. Part-time consulting. 500 per project. Sound fair. Marcus knew the market knew what engineering consultants commanded. Knew that 500 per project was insulting even as stepping stone. 500 per day is fair. I know my value, Kate. Her smile was genuine, attracted to his confidence, to the way he negotiated from position of strength despite circumstances that should have made him desperate. Yes, you do. Okay, 500 per day. They shook hands, electricity passing between them, connection deepening beyond gratitude, or professional respect into territory neither was ready to acknowledge. Zoe's playroom revealed art project that made Kate's breath catch. Construction paper, building labeled, "Where Daddy Helps People." Complete with windows and doors and tiny figures representing the family Zoe was constructing in her imagination. "Daddy, look what I made," Zoe ran to Marcus. Pride evident, creation clutched carefully. Marcus saw Kate's expression, saw how the gesture affected her, saw vulnerability she usually hid beneath professional competence. "Can I keep it here? So when Daddy comes back, he'll see it." Kate knelt, emotion threatening her, carefully maintained composure. "I'll put it right on my desk." "How's that?" Zoe's response was spontaneous, pure, uncomplicated by adult reservations. She hugged Kate, small arms wrapping around the CEO who'd never experienced unconditional affection from a child who'd built walls so high she'd forgotten what connection felt like. "Thank you for taking care of my daddy." Kate hugged back, tears forming despite years of practice at emotional control. Marcus watched his two worlds colliding, the daughter who represented his past and the woman who might represent his future if he could overcome fear that visibility meant danger. Maybe invisibility had protected her mind of them, but maybe it had also imprisoned them. Maybe Kate Sterling was offering more than consulting work. Maybe she was offering the chance to stop hiding, to build something real, to trust that protection didn't require isolation. That night, Richard Ashford sat in his office long after other executives had departed, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and urgent. "I need everything on Marcus Washington. Military records, financial records, his dead wife. Everything." The private investigator's response was professional, efficient, accustomed to wealthy clients demanding information for purposes better left unexamined. Already working it. But this guy is clean. Decorated Marine, no criminal record, pays his bills despite poverty wages. Richard's frustration was palpable, fingers drumming on desk that cost more than Marcus's monthly rent. "Everyone has secrets. Find them." His computer screen displayed evidence of his own secrets: bank transfers, shell company's embezzlement trail, representing $60 million stolen over 4 years. In 6 weeks, his takeover plan would execute, board votes scheduled, Kate's removal orchestrated through careful manipulation of institutional politics. But if she fell in love with Marcus Washington, if she got distracted, if her focus shifted from quarterly projections to personal relationships, perfect. She'd be vulnerable, emotional, making the decisions from weakness rather than strength. And Richard could exploit that weakness to take what should have been his 5 years ago. She'd rejected him once. He wouldn't allow it to happen twice. Marcus's apartment that night, late, Zoe asleep after excited recounting of her day at Sterling Medical, after describing toys and books and the nice lady who'd played with her. Marcus sat at the kitchen table staring at old police reports about Sarah's death, at the investigation that had stalled, despite Detective Rivera's best efforts. His phone rang, Rivera with update that would change everything. "Marcus, we enhanced the image. Tyler Brooks wasn't working alone. Someone else in the footage, watching from distance. Facial recognition is running now." The implications were clear. Sarah's murder wasn't personal vendetta, but contracted hit, which meant someone had paid Brooks, someone with resources and motivation, to eliminate a Sterling Medical accountant who discovered something she shouldn't have. "If you find him, call me immediately. Don't wait. You have my word." But both men understood that promises meant less than survival instinct. That if threats emerged, fathers protecting daughters didn't wait for proper channels or departmental procedure. 2 days later, 2 a.m., Mrs. Chen's panicked phone call shattered Marcus's sleep, adrenaline replacing exhaustion before consciousness fully registered the words. "Marcus, come home, Zoe can't breathe." He ran traffic, laws irrelevant, reaching his building in minutes that felt like hours. Mrs. Chen met him at the door, terror evident, Zoe on the couch struggling for air, wheezing that indicated respiratory distress. Marcus's training took over civilian panic, replaced by Staff Sergeant Washington's combat-tested calm. Mrs. Chen called 911, pediatric respiratory distress. He checked Zoe's vitals, pulse racing, oxygen saturation low, but not critical, airway compromised, but not completely blocked. His voice was steady, projecting confidence that terror couldn't shake. Baby girl, look at daddy. Focus on me. Slow breaths. In through nose, out through mouth. Zoe tried fighting panic that made breathing harder, fighting the fear that daddy's calm couldn't quite disguise. Marcus checked her throat, her chest running through differential diagnosis with efficiency, born from field hospitals, where hesitation meant death. Allergic reaction. Mrs. Chen, did she eat anything different? Shrimp from Chinese takeout. She said she'd never had it before, anaphylaxis. Marcus grabbed his medical kit, found the EpiPen he'd maintained despite 3 years away from active duty, administered epinephrine with practiced precision. 30 seconds later, Zoe's breathing eased, color returning to her face, panic receding as medication counteracted the allergic response. Ambulance sirens announced professional help, but Marcus had already saved her, had already done what needed doing before backup arrived. Presbyterian Hospital, 4 a.m. Zoe stable, and sleeping monitors tracking vitals that had returned to normal ranges. Marcus sat beside her bed, holding her small hand, exhaustion and terror warring beneath the calm exterior he maintained for her benefit. His phone rang. Kate Sterling somehow informed despite the hour, despite having no official reason to know about Zoe's medical emergency. Marcus, I just heard. Is Zoe okay? How did you know? Hospital called me. I'm listed as your emergency contact for work. Is she okay? The explanation made sense but felt insufficient. Felt like Kate had inserted herself into his life more thoroughly than professional relationship warranted. But her concern was genuine, audible through phone connection. She's stable. Allergic reaction to shrimp. I didn't know. Kate's voice softened, authority replaced by something warmer, more personal. I'm coming. Marcus tried to object, tried to maintain boundaries that were already dissolving. Kate, you don't have to. I'm coming. The call ended. Marcus stared at his phone, uncertain whether to feel grateful or threatened by Kate Sterling's determination to be involved in his life, to show up in ways that transcended professional courtesy. She arrived at 5 a.m., still in pajamas beneath expensive coat hair, loose instead of the tight bun she wore to project authority, makeup absent, revealing vulnerability she usually hid. Marcus's surprise was evident, gratitude mixing with confusion about her presence. How is she? Kate whispered, respecting Zoe's sleep, sitting in the chair beside Marcus, with natural ease that suggested this was exactly where she belonged. Better. Doctor says she'll be fine. They want to keep her for observation. Have you slept, eaten number? Kate produced a hospital cafeteria bag, practical gesture, wrapped in concern that spoke volumes about her priorities. Coffee, sandwich, eat. Marcus accepted, grateful for the simple care for someone showing up in the middle of crisis without agenda or expectation of reciprocation. They sat in companionable silence, watching Zoe sleep, two people processing trauma and relief in quiet darkness. Why did you come, Kate? Really? Kate looked at Zoe, at the sleeping child who'd chosen her as family, at Marcus, who'd saved her life and was now saving his daughter's. When I was 12, my mother got sick. Cancer. I sat in a hospital room just like this for 6 months watching her fade. My father couldn't handle it. He'd visit for 10 minutes, then leave. Said hospitals made him uncomfortable. He's a surgeon. Marcus listened, understanding emerging about Kate's isolation, about the 12-year-old girl, who'd watched her mother die alone, who'd learned that the people who should show up sometimes didn't. I was alone, watching my mother die alone. And I promised myself if I ever had the chance to show up for someone in a hospital, I would. No matter what. Marcus's voice was quiet, carrying weight of shared understanding. You're not alone anymore, Kate. Tears formed in Kate's eyes, walls crumbling under the weight of simple statement that acknowledged her humanity beyond professional achievement. Neither are you. Their hands reached across space-touched connection, deepening beyond gratitude or professional respect into something neither could name, but both recognized as essential. Zoe's eyes fluttered open, weak smile greeting the scene of her father and Kate holding hands beside her hospital bed. Hi, Daddy. Hi, Miss Kate. Both adults pulled their hands apart guilty despite having done nothing wrong, despite connection being exactly what Zoe had hoped for when she drew her family portrait. Hey, baby girl, how you feeling? Tired? Did I get sick? Yeah, but you're okay now. No more shrimp for you. Zoe noticed Kate's presence, her attendance at 5 a.m. in a hospital, her obvious care about Zoe's well-being. Miss Kate, you came. Of course I came. You're my friend, remember? Zoe's wisdom emerged innocent observation that cut through adult complexity. Are you and Daddy friends too? Marcus and Kate exchanged glances, uncertain how to label what they were becoming. What connection was forming between CEO and janitor, between woman who'd never known family and man who'd lost his? Yes, sweetheart, we're friends. Zoe's smile suggested she understood more than adults gave her credit for that 8-year-old perception, saw through evasion. Good. Daddy needs more friends. He's lonely. Kate smiled through tears, recognizing her own isolation reflected in Zoe's diagnosis. Me too, Zoe. Me too. Marcus's phone buzzed, Detective Rivera text message demanding immediate attention. Facial recognition hit. You need to see this. Now. Dread settled in Marcus's stomach, cold certainty that invisibility had completely failed, that past and present were colliding with consequences he couldn't predict or control. Kate noticed his expression, the fear he couldn't quite hide. What's wrong? Marcus looked at Zoe, then at Kate, then at the text message that promised to upend everything. My past just caught up, and it's going to put everyone I love in danger. Kate's determination was immediate, no hesitation, despite not understanding the full scope of threat. Then we face it together. Marcus wanted to refuse, wanted to protect her through distance and denial, wanted to maintain the walls that had kept Zoe safe for 3 years. But he was exhausted, scared, and Kate Sterling was offering partnership he desperately needed. Kate, there are things about me you don't know. Things that Kate squeezed his hand, cutting through his objection. I don't care. Whatever it is, we'll handle it. Together. The word hung between them, promise and commitment and risk. Together meant visibility. Together meant vulnerability. Together meant trusting that connection was stronger than isolation, that partnership could protect better than solitude. Marcus Washington had spent 3 years protecting his daughter alone. Kate Sterling had spent 34 years protecting herself alone. But maybe together they could both finally be safe. Maybe together they could build something worth the risk. The hospital room morning light beginning to filter through windows. Zoe sleeping peacefully, monitors beeping steady reassurance. 2 broken people holding hands beside a child's bed, choosing connection over isolation, choosing risk over safety, choosing each other despite every logical reason to maintain distance. Kate's phone rang. Board member Patricia Morgan with urgent news about financial irregularities, about forensic accountants discovering discrepancies in Project Phoenix funding, about trails leading to Richard Ashford's office, and beyond. The threats converging weren't separate. They were connected. Sarah's murder, Richard's embezzlement, Tyler Brooks's disappearance, the text messages, warning Marcus, all of it woven together in conspiracy neither fully understood yet, but both were beginning to recognize. Kate listened to Patricia's report, face hardening with each revelation, CEO returning beneath the vulnerable woman who'd shown up at a hospital in pajamas. Hold everything. Don't let Richard know we're looking. I'll be there in 2 hours. She turned to Marcus, apologetic but determined. I have to go. Board emergency. But I'll have security posted outside Zoe's room. Nobody gets in without my authorization. Marcus nodded, grateful and concerned, simultaneously aware that Kate's involvement made her a target too, that whoever wanted him dead might view her as leverage or obstacle. Kate, be careful. If this is what I think it is, I will. Call me if anything changes. Anything at all. She left transformation from vulnerable woman to powerful CEO, complete in seconds, leaving Marcus alone with sleeping daughter and certainty that everything was about to explode. Detective Rivera arrived an hour later, photos in hand, evidence that confirmed Marcus's worst fears. The enhanced image showed Tyler Brooks at Marcus's car 3 years ago, but the second figure in the background was identifiable now, face clear enough for recognition. Richard Ashford, Kate's ex-fiancé, Sterling Medical's CFO, the man who'd threatened Kate just days ago. Standing 3 years in the past, watching Tyler Brooks sabotage brake lines, orchestrating Sarah Washington's murder. Marcus stared at the photo, rage and clarity warring for dominance. Sarah hadn't died because of his military past. She died because she worked at Sterling Medical, because she was an accountant who discovered Richard's embezzlement, because she'd been 2 weeks away from reporting fraud when her car's brakes failed. For 3 years, Marcus had run from the wrong enemy. The threat wasn't in his past. It was in Kate's present. And now, having saved Kate's life, having entered her world, having fallen for the woman Richard viewed as his property, Marcus had painted a target on himself and Zoe. Rivera's voice was grim professional, delivering bad news with practiced efficiency. "We can arrest him. Evidence is solid. But Marcus, if Richard knows we're coming, if he runs, he won't run. He's too arrogant, too certain he's untouchable. But he will strike, soon." The pieces assembled with brutal clarity. Richard hadn't just embezzled 60 million. He'd murdered to protect that secret, had orchestrated Sarah's death, had probably arranged the tower fire to distract Kate or eliminate her, or both. And now, with Kate and Marcus growing closer, with his control slipping, Richard would escalate. Tonight, Sterling Medical Charity Gala, Plaza Hotel. Kate had mentioned it days ago. Black tie event, board members and investors, perfect opportunity for Richard to make his move to eliminate threats while maintaining plausible deniability. Marcus made decision with military precision, with certainty born from 8 years of combat experience. "I'll be there. At the gala. You're not invited. I'll find a way." And Rivera, "When this goes down, when Richard makes his move, you need to be there too. Because I'm going to make him confess everything. And I need witnesses." The plan was reckless, dangerous, exactly the kind of operation that got people killed. But Marcus Washington hadn't survived 3 tours by playing safe. He'd survived by recognizing threats and eliminating them before they eliminated him. Richard Ashford had killed Sarah, had tried to kill Kate, was planning to kill again. Marcus wouldn't let that happen, even if it meant stepping fully into the light, even if it meant risking everything, even if it meant the final end of invisibility he'd maintained for 3 years. Zoe woke, saw her father's expression, recognized determination that preceded action. "Daddy, what's happening?" Marcus smoothed her hair, voice gentle, despite the violence he was planning. "I have to go help Miss Kate tonight, baby. Mrs. Chen will stay with you here at the hospital. Security guard outside your door. You don't leave this room for anyone except me or Miss Kate." Understand, Zoe's wisdom emerged again. 8-year-old understanding that exceeded her years. "You're going to fight the bad man." Marcus couldn't lie to her, couldn't pretend this was simple business meeting or casual social event. "Yes, baby, I'm going to protect Miss Kate, like I protected you, like I protected Mama." The last part slipped out, honesty overriding careful narrative they'd maintained about Sarah's accident. Zoe's eyes widened, pieces clicking into place. Mama didn't die in an accident. Marcus realized his mistake, the truth he'd hidden suddenly exposed. But maybe Zoe deserved truth. Maybe 8 years old was old enough to understand that the world contained evil, that her father was capable of fighting it, that protection sometimes required violence. "No, baby. Someone hurt Mama, and I'm going to make sure he can't hurt anyone else." Zoe processed this grief and anger and fear visible on her young face. Then she reached for her father's hand, squeezed it with surprising strength. "Be careful, Daddy. I need you. I'll come back. I promise. I always come back." A promise he'd kept for 3 years through double shifts and exhaustion and grief that threatened to drown him. A promise he'd keep again, even if it meant walking into danger, even if it meant facing the man who destroyed his family. Kate Sterling was at the center of this conspiracy, whether she knew it or not. And Marcus Washington had saved her life once already. He'd do it again tonight at the Plaza Hotel in front of witnesses and cameras in the entire corporate world that had dismissed him as invisible. Richard Ashford was about to discover that invisible men made the most dangerous enemies, because nobody saw them coming until it was too late. The Plaza Hotel stood as testament to old wealth and modern power, its grand ballroom hosting Sterling Medical's annual charity gala, where 500 guests in designer attire gathered to network and donate and be seen. Crystal chandeliers illuminated faces worth billions, collectively conversations worth millions individually. This was Kate Sterling's world-polished, expensive, carefully choreographed. Marcus Washington entered through the delivery entrance, where catering staff unloaded champagne and hors d'oeuvres, borrowed tuxedo fitting awkwardly despite Mrs. Chen's alterations, shoes borrowed from Detective Rivera, pinching feet, accustomed to work boots. Security nodded him through without question. Service workers remained invisible, even at events celebrating visibility. Rivera himself waited near the kitchen in plainclothes backup, positioned outside in unmarked vehicles. The plan's simple: let Richard reveal himself, document everything, arrest him before violence erupted. Simple plans invited complication, but complexity risked failure. Kate descended the ballroom's grand staircase at 8 p.m. evening gown, transforming her from CEO to something ethereal, commanding attention through presence rather than announcement. She navigated the crowd with practiced grace, accepting congratulations about Project Phoenix's recent FDA approval, deflecting questions about her mystery consultant, maintaining composure that hid the vulnerability Marcus had witnessed in hospital rooms and Queen's apartments. Richard Ashford tracked her movement with possessive intensity, territorial, animal-watching prey that had escaped his control, hand drifting repeatedly to his jacket pocket where metal outlines suggested weapon or recording device or both. His face carried barely suppressed rage, 5 years of rejection festering into something dangerous. Marcus positioned himself behind a marble column, military training assessing angles and exits and threats, every combat instinct screaming that violence was inevitable. The question was timing, whether Richard would act publicly or wait for private moment, whether desperation would override his careful planning. Kate found Marcus 20 minutes into the gala relief breaking through her professional mask when she spotted him. "You came. I wasn't sure you would." Her voice dropped to intimate register despite surrounding crowd connection maintained even amid social performance. "Had to borrow everything, even the shoes." Kate's smile held genuine warmth that surprised nearby observers accustomed to her Ice Queen reputation. "You look exactly right." The moment shattered as Richard approached territorial instinct, drawing him toward Kate and the man he viewed as usurper, as threat, as obstacle to plans 5 years in construction. "Kate, Mr. Washington. Interesting +1 choice for tonight's event." Richard's tone carried contempt disguised as civility, social veneer transparent enough that violence showed through. "He's not my +1. He's my colleague, my friend." Kate's correction came automatically, but Marcus noted her body language. She'd shifted closer to him, protective instinct matching his own partnership visible to anyone observing carefully. Of course. Still optics matter, people notice. Single father, working class background, you're increasing time together. The board has concerns. Marcus moved forward, Marine bearing replacing Janitor deference. Staff Sergeant Washington emerging from beneath civilian disguise. "You got something to say to me directly." Ashford Richards' mask slipped, exposing rage before control reasserted itself. "Just wondering what Kate sees in you beyond the hero complex. What expertise you bring beyond mopping floors." Marcus closed the distance, invading personal space in calculated display of dominance that made Richard step back reflexively. "I see what you don't want Kate seeing. Your embezzlement, your conspiracy, your connection to Sarah Washington's murder." Nearby conversations stopped, guests turning toward the confrontation's social gathering, transforming into spectacle. Kate's shock was visible, pieces she'd suspected suddenly confirmed in public forum. Richard's face drained of color before flushing with fury. "You have no proof of these slanders." Marcus produced. His phone played enhanced security footage, showing Richard watching Tyler Brooks tamper with brake lines 3 years prior. The image quality was forensic-grade, undeniable, damning. "Detective Rivera has proof. Forensics, financial records, witness testimony. You paid Tyler Brooks $50,000 to murder my wife because she discovered your embezzlement scheme." Kate's breath caught audibly, understanding, crystallizing with brutal clarity. Sarah Washington, accountant, Sterling medical employee, discovered Richard's fraud and died 2 weeks before reporting it. Not random tragedy, calculated murder orchestrated by the man Kate had nearly married. "Richard, tell me he's lying, please." Her voice carried desperate hope, even as evidence made denial impossible. Richard's hand moved toward his jacket pocket motion, triggering every alarm Marcus's training had ingrained. Marcus lunged, grabbed Richard's wrist before the gun cleared, fabric twisted with precise application of force that made Richard drop the weapon with cry of pain. The gun clattered across marble flooring, metallic sound cutting through ballroom noise, creating instant chaos. Screams, panicked guests scrambling away as security rushed forward and Detective Rivera emerged from the kitchen with backup. Richard struggled briefly against Marcus's restraint, futile resistance against combat-tested technique, then collapsed as handcuffs secured his wrists and Miranda rights were read with bureaucratic efficiency. Sarah was going to expose me. I had no choice. She would have destroyed everything. The confession spilled out, desperate admission from a man watching his carefully constructed world disintegrate. Cameras captured everything, guests recording on phones, security footage, documenting news media, present, for charity coverage, witnessing corporate executives' arrests for murder conspiracy. Kate stood frozen, processing betrayal and revelation simultaneously, understanding that her judgment had been catastrophically flawed, that the man she'd nearly married had murdered an innocent woman to protect stolen millions. Marcus approached carefully, aware that shock manifested unpredictably, that learning your ex-fiancé was a murderer, complicated emotions in ways logic couldn't navigate. Kate. She looked at him, tears forming despite years of practice at emotional control, walls crumbling under accumulated trauma. He killed Sarah because of my company, because I couldn't see what he was. Marcus took her hand's grounding gesture amid surrounding chaos. You couldn't have known. He was careful, patient, hiding in plain sight. But it's over. He can't hurt anyone else now. Security escorted Richard toward the exit, his protests fading as reality penetrated denial. Board members gathered around Kate, offering support and demanding explanations, simultaneously corporate crisis management activating automatically. Patricia Morgan addressed the assembled crowd, voice projecting authority that commanded attention. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. The situation is contained. Mr. Ashford has been arrested on serious charges. Sterling Medical's board will ensure full transparency and cooperation with authorities. The crowd murmured, shock and speculation spreading through conversations, social media posts already emerging as guests processed the scandal unfolding before them. Patricia approached Marcus' older woman with shrewd assessment behind kind eyes. Mr. Washington, on behalf of Sterling Medical's board, we owe you tremendous gratitude. You exposed fraud and prevented further violence. Marcus deflected recognition reflexively, uncomfortable with visibility that came from heroism. Just did what was necessary. Patricia studied him with interest, suggesting more than gratitude. Kate mentioned your engineering expertise saved Project Phoenix, your military background, your integrity. We could use someone like you permanently. The offer was unexpected, corporate world acknowledging value it had previously dismissed in visibility, transforming into recognition. Marcus had avoided for 3 years. What kind of position? Director of Engineering Innovation. Salary commensurate with your demonstrated value, $180,000 annually plus benefits and equity participation. The number represented more money than Marcus had imagined, earning more security than he'd thought possible for Zoe's future validation that his skills mattered beyond mopping floors. Kate watched his reaction, hope visible beneath shock and trauma, hoping he'd accept, hoping he'd stay in her world despite every reason to flee. I need to think about it. Talk to my daughter. Patricia nodded, understanding that fathers made decisions with family input. Of course. But Marcus, this isn't charity, it's recognition of what you've proven you can contribute. The gala dissolved into controlled chaos, guests departing amid speculation, board members assembling for emergency session, Kate's world restructuring around Richard's absence, and the investigation that would dominate coming months. Marcus found Kate on the hotel's rooftop terrace, Manhattan spread below like illuminated circuit board city lights, marking territories of wealth and struggle, the divisions he'd spent 3 years navigating. How does it feel? Her question was quiet, acknowledging that saving lives and exposing conspiracies carried psychological costs invisible to observers. Surreal. 2 months ago, I was mopping floors. Tonight, I tackled a CFO at a charity gala. Kate's laugh was brief tension, breaking momentarily before settling back into emotional complexity. You saved my life, again. Marcus joined her at the railing, close enough to touch, but respecting her need to process independently. You saved mine first. If you hadn't hired me, I'd never have connected Sarah to Richard. Never understood what really happened. They stood in silence, city noise rising from below, autumn wind carrying chill that made Kate shiver. Marcus removed his borrowed jacket, draped it across her shoulders with gesture that protected without possessing. Marcus, can I ask you something? After tonight, ask anything. Why didn't you date after Sarah died? 3 years alone raising Zoe yourself. Why Marcus looked out over the city gathering words for truth he'd never fully articulated. Because I was scared. Sarah's death taught me that loving people makes you vulnerable, that caring gives them power to destroy you. I couldn't risk Zoe losing anyone else. Kate's voice was barely audible, matching his vulnerability. And now I'm still scared. But I'm tired of being alone, tired of protecting myself from connection, tired of invisibility. Kate moved closer, eliminating space between them. Decision made despite fear and complications. I've been alone my whole life, Marcus, even when my mother was alive, even when I was engaged to Richard, always performing connection without feeling it. He turned to face her, saw tears reflecting city lights, saw the woman behind the CEO mask. Why? Because I never felt like anyone saw me. They saw my money, my company, my achievements. Never just Kate, never the person underneath. Marcus took her hand, simple gesture, carrying weight of everything unspoken between them. I see you, Kate, since that first day at my apartment, since you showed up at the hospital at 5 a.m., since you stood beside me tonight despite not understanding what was happening. I've seen you. Kate's walls crumbled completely, tears falling freely, grief and relief and recognition pouring out simultaneously. I'm terrified, Marcus, of this, of us, of failing at it, of losing you the way I've lost everyone else. Marcus pulled her close, offered comfort, learned from 3 years of single parenting, patience earned through surviving loss. Me too. But Kate, we're from the same world, not different worlds like everyone thinks. We're both just people who've been hurt and are trying to do better. She pulled back, looked at him with eyes that saw past borrowed tuxedo and working class origins. What happens now? You're a consultant. I'm a CEO. You have Zoe. I have a company to rebuild. How do we? Marcus interrupted gently, cutting through her spiral of logistics and obstacles. Kate, stop. You're protecting yourself, building walls. I recognize it because I've done it for 3 years, but I'm done hiding. Question is whether you're ready to stop hiding too. Kate wanted to deny it, maintain that her concerns were practical rather than self-protective. But Marcus knew her too well, saw through defenses perfected over decades. People will judge us. They already do, the billionaire and the janitor. It's every cliche about class and romance. I don't care what people think. I care about you. Zoe cares about you. That's what matters. Kate's fear was visible, vulnerability terrifying after years of control. What if I'm not enough? What if I can't be what Zoe needs? I don't know how to be a mother, how to be in a family. Marcus's voice was firm but gentle. Kate, you showed up at a hospital at 5 a.m. because Zoe was sick. You held her hand, you brought her toys, you made her laugh. You're already more than enough. The words broke something in Kate, final resistance, crumbling under the weight of being truly valued for who she was rather than what she possessed. I'm so scared of losing this, of losing you both. Then don't push us away. Stay. Fight for this, with me. Kate clung to him, decision made despite fear, despite every logical reason to maintain professional distance. I love you. I don't know when it happened. Maybe the fire. Maybe when you fixed the device. Maybe the hospital. But I love you. Marcus's response was immediate, carrying 3 years of accumulated isolation and grief and hope he'd been afraid to acknowledge. Kate Sterling. I fell in love with you the moment you knelt to talk to Zoe about her drawings, when you told me about your mother, when you defended me to your board, when you showed up tonight despite not understanding why. I love you, not despite our differences, but because you see me and I see you, and that's rarer than any fortune. They kissed, tentative then passionate connection, physical and emotional, simultaneously choice made to risk everything for possibility of something real. City lights surrounded them, Manhattan indifferent to the billionaire CEO and former janitor, choosing each other despite every obstacle. The world would judge, would speculate, would question. But Marcus and Kate had both spent too long caring what others thought, too long protecting themselves through isolation. Not anymore. 2 weeks passed in bureaucratic whirlwind, Richard's formal arrest board investigations, media coverage, transforming Marcus into reluctant hero and Kate into sympathetic victim. Sterling Medical's stock fluctuated before stabilizing as investors recognized that fraud exposure was preferable to continued hemorrhaging. Marcus experienced surreal transition from janitor to engineering director, processing office space that felt foreign salary, that seemed fictional colleagues who'd ignored him, now soliciting opinions. The transformation from invisible to essential happened so rapidly he experienced emotional vertigo. Zoe adjusted with 8-year-old resilience, processing her father's new position, and Kate's increasing presence with excitement tempered by caution. She liked Kate, trusted Kate, but Sarah's ghost still lingered in apartment corners, in photos on walls, in memories, shaping Zoe's understanding of family. Marcus found Zoe crying one evening, curled on her bed, clutching Sarah's photo. He sat beside her, familiar comfort routine, deployed automatically. "What's wrong, baby girl?" Zoe's voice was small, carrying guilt children shouldn't feel. "Am I bad if I like Miss Kate? If I want her to be my new mama?" Marcus's heart broke and healed simultaneously, understanding his daughter's conflict between loyalty to Sarah's memory and desire for maternal presence. "Baby, you're not bad. You're perfect. Mama would want you to be happy, would want us both to be happy. But what if I forget her? What if Miss Kate becomes my mama and I don't remember real mama anymore?" Marcus gathered Zoe into his lap, rocked her gently. "You won't forget. We won't let you. Mama will always be your mama. Nothing changes that. But Kate can be part of our family too. People don't replace each other. They add to each other." Zoe tested this logic against her 8-year-old understanding. "Like how I can love you and Mama both, even though Mama's in heaven." Exactly like that. Love doesn't divide. It multiplies. Zoe's tears slowed, comfort found in permission she'd needed. "Can I call Kate Mama?" Or is that wrong? Marcus thought about Kate's vulnerability, her desperate desire for family despite fearing inadequacy. "Why don't you ask Kate what she'd like? I think she'd be honored. But she'll want you comfortable too." The conversation happened 3 days later. Saturday morning at Marcus's new apartment, 3-bedroom brownstone in Brooklyn, middle ground between Queens and Manhattan, compromise representing their relationship's negotiated territory. Kate arrived early with bagels and coffee and nervous energy, suggesting rehearsed conversations. Zoe ambushed her before Marcus could intervene. "Miss Kate, can I call you Mama? Or is that weird because my real mama's dead and you're not really my mama, but I want you to be, but I don't want to hurt real mama's feelings, even though she's in heaven." The question emerged in breathless rush, vulnerability, and hope entangled completely. Kate's eyes filled immediately. She knelt to Zoe's level, taking her hands with gentleness Marcus recognized. "Zoe, I would be honored if you called me Mama. But we don't have to rush. You can call me Kate, or Miss Kate, or Mama Kate, or anything that feels right. And your real Mama Sarah, she'll always be your mama too. I'm not replacing her. I'm just trying to love you the way she'd want someone to love you." Zoe processed this with wisdom beyond her years. "So I can have 2 mamas, one in heaven and one here." "Exactly. Your heart is big enough for both." Zoe hugged Kate with fierce intensity, decision made with characteristic speed. "Okay, Mama Kate, that's what I'll call you." Kate hugged back, tears falling freely. Grief and joy mixing in the complicated emotion of becoming a mother through choice rather than biology. Marcus watched from the kitchen, making breakfast with improving skill, grateful for the family assembling in his living room for the second chance he'd never expected. The Sterling Medical Board meeting happened in week 3 formal session to approve Richard's termination, ratify Marcus's position address, structural changes Kate proposed. Patricia Morgan called the meeting to order. First order, Richard Ashford's termination finalized. Criminal charges proceed separately. Forensic audit recovered $42 million of embezzled $60 million. Remaining $18 million likely unrecoverable. Board members nodded, accepting financial damage as cost for removing institutional cancer. Second order, Marcus Washington's appointment as Director of Engineering Innovation. All in favor, unanimous approval, recognition that Marcus's value transcended unconventional background. Third order, Ms. Sterling's proposed cultural reforms. Compensation equity, audits, mentorship programs, anonymous feedback mechanisms. Approved pending implementation timeline. Kate stood addressing the board with confidence rebuilt through crisis and Marcus's support. "I'm also proposing the Sarah Washington Foundation for STEM education. Initial endowment $10 million from personal funds matched by Sterling Medical. Full scholarships for working-class students pursuing engineering with mentorship from our staff. Patricia spoke first. Seconded. The foundation honors a victim while advancing our mission. All in favor. Again unanimous. Kate felt relief and grief. Sarah Washington would be remembered, would inspire the next generation. Marcus attended as newly appointed director, conscious of being the only black man in a room of white executives, the only former janitor among MBAs and medical degrees. But Patricia addressed him directly. Mr. Washington, your insights have proven invaluable. The device modification passed FDA approval with commendation. You vindicated Ms. Sterling's faith in unconventional thinking. Marcus accepted recognition earned through competence rather than connection. Thank you. I'm committed to building engineering culture that values problem-solving over pedigree. The words carried implicit criticism of systems that had dismissed him. But the board accepted the challenge, recognized Marcus had earned the right to question their assumptions. After the meeting, Kate's father, Robert Sterling, appeared surgeon, who taught her that efficiency mattered more than emotion. Catherine, might I have a word? Kate tensed, expecting criticism about Marcus, about professional complications of their relationship. But Robert surprised her vulnerability, showing through surgical precision. I owe you apologies, multiple apologies, for not being there when your mother died, for teaching you emotional distance was strength, for not seeing what Marcus Washington offers, not his skills, but his humanity, his willingness to be present. Kate's shock was visible, 34 years of relationship restructuring in single conversation. Dad, I was wrong, Catherine, about many things, especially about love. I'm 62, accomplished surgeon, and I'm alone. My daughter barely speaks to me. My wife died thinking I didn't love her enough. And I'm watching you make different choices. Better choices. I'm proud of you. Tears formed in Kate's eyes, forgiveness and grief mixing in complicated emotion. Thank you, Dad. That means more than you know. Robert nodded, uncomfortable with emotion but pushing through. Marcus Washington is a good man. Don't let him go. Don't make my mistakes. Kate hugged her father, first real embrace in years connection, reestablishing through shared acknowledgement of past failures and future possibilities. The foundation launch happened 8 weeks after Richard's arrest. Sarah Washington Foundation formally announced at press conference, Kate orchestrated with characteristic efficiency. Journalists asked about Marcus's background, about his relationship with Kate, about the improbable journey from janitor to director. One reporter asked the inevitable question, Mr. Washington, you and Ms. Sterling have been seen together frequently. Are you in a relationship? Marcus looked at Kate's silent question about disclosure. Kate took his hand, decision made with characteristic boldness. Yes, Marcus and I are in a relationship. We're building something together professionally and personally. Before you ask whether that's appropriate, let me be clear. Marcus reports to our engineering VP, not to me. We've implemented proper oversight. But yes, I'm dating my director of engineering innovation, and I'm not apologizing for finding the best person for and the best partner for my life in the same man. The declaration was public, definitive, impossible to retract. Media coverage exploded predictably. Billionaire CEO dating former janitor, class divide narrative, Cinderella story with genders reversed. But coverage was largely positive, public appetite for authentic connection overriding cynicism. 3 months after Richard's arrest, life settled into sustainable rhythm. Marcus excelled in his director role, building engineering team that valued creativity over credentials. Kate rebuilt Sterling Medical's culture systematically. Zoe thrived in 4th grade. Saturday mornings became family ritual. Marcus making breakfast with improving competence. Kate helping Zoe with art projects, 3 people choosing each other through small daily actions. One Saturday, Zoe presented them with new drawing, 3 figures holding hands, house sun hearts. But this drawing was labeled differently, Our Forever Family, in careful handwriting, present tense replacing aspirational future. Kate stared at the drawing, emotion overwhelming her. Zoe, this is beautiful. Can I keep it? Zoe's wisdom emerged again. You have to keep it, Mama Kate, because you're part of our family now, forever. The word hung in air, forever, promise and commitment wrapped in single word, children used easily, but adults approached with caution. That evening after Zoe slept, Marcus and Kate sat on their brownstone's front steps, autumn air, carrying winter's approach. Kate, I need to ask you something, and you can say no, but I need to know where we're going. Kate's apprehension was visible. What are you asking? Marcus pulled out a small box, simple ring, inside elegant but not ostentatious, chosen to match Kate's personality rather than bank account. I'm asking if you'll marry me. If you'll choose this us, this family, this life permanently. Not someday theoretical. Now, soon. Before fear convinces either of us to protect ourselves by running. Kate stared at the ring, at Marcus, at future crystallizing in simple question, demanding complicated answer. Marcus, I want to say yes, but I'm terrified. Marriage didn't work before. What if I'm terrible at being a wife, at being a mother? What if I disappoint you and Zoe? Marcus interrupted gently. Kate, you already are a mother. Zoe calls you Mama Kate. You show up for recitals and conferences. You help with homework and pack lunches. You're not theoretical mother. You're actual mother. And you're amazing at it. The words broke through Kate's resistance. What about being a wife? Being my wife just means showing up, being honest, choosing me tomorrow. You're already doing that. We're just making it official. Kate looked at the ring again. Zoe knows you're proposing. I asked her permission first. Marine protocols secure the perimeter before advancing. She said, and I quote, obviously yes, Daddy. We're already a family. You just need to make it official. Kate laughed through tears, 8-year-old logic cutting through adult complexity. Yes. God, yes, I'll marry you. Marcus slid the ring onto her finger, kissed her with passion, tempered by tenderness, choice made to build future together, despite fear and every reason to protect themselves through isolation. The wedding happened 3 months later, small ceremony at St. Patrick's Cathedral, 50 guests representing family and friends accumulated through shared crisis. Mrs. Chen attended proud. Detective Rivera came satisfied justice was served. Patricia Morgan and board members acknowledged that love transcended class boundaries. Zoe served as flower girl perfect in dress. Kate helped select pride visible as she scattered rose petals. Kate wore simple white dress, no veil, flowers and hair design, emphasizing person over position. Marcus wore marine dress blues, medals displayed military service, acknowledged as central to identity. He tried hiding. They exchanged vows written personally. Marcus spoke first, voice steady despite emotion. Kate, I promise to always see you, not Kate Sterling, CEO. Just Kate, the woman who shows up, who cares deeply, who loves completely despite fear. I see you, I choose you today and every day forward. Kate's tears fell as she spoke. Marcus, I promise to always value you, not for what you can do for me, not for how you saved my life, but for who you are, the man who chose invisibility to protect his daughter, who chose vulnerability to protect me. You are my home, my family, my future. I choose you forever. The pastor pronounced them husband and wife. They kissed, applause erupting from guests who'd witnessed transformation from Koruo and Janitor to partners and parents. Zoe ran forward, demanding inclusion, family hug happening spontaneously as photographer captured their origin moment. Reception happened in smaller cathedral hall. Intimate celebration rather than corporate spectacle. Marcus's Marine brothers attended, recognizing the best battles were fought for love. Father-daughter dance happened between Marcus and Zoe, acknowledging the family they'd been. Then Kate cut in, claiming her turn with Zoe, establishing new tradition. Kate and Robert danced briefly, reconciliation visible in embrace lasting beyond music. Marcus's speech was brief, military efficiency translating to emotional precision. 3 years ago, I lost my wife, lost my career, lost myself trying to keep my daughter safe by becoming invisible. Kate Sterling found me. Not because she was looking, but because she needed saving and I happened to be there. But truth is, she saved me too. Saved us both. Taught me that protection doesn't require isolation. That love is stronger than fear. That families choose each other. Zoe and I chose Kate. She chose us back. That's all that matters. Kate's speech matched his brevity. I built an empire alone. $800 million, 400 employees, success everyone envied. And I was miserable, lonely, isolated behind walls constructed to protect from vulnerability. Marcus Washington crashed through those walls by asking nothing except that I show up. Be present, be honest, be human. Turns out being human is harder than being successful. But it's worth it. The reception continued late celebration rather than obligation. Eventually, guests departed family of three, returning to Brooklyn Brownstone, representing their merged lives. Zoe fell asleep immediately, leaving Marcus and Kate alone in living room, bearing evidence of their combined existence, his military photos beside her business awards, Zoe's artwork covering every surface. Kate looked at her ring at Marcus, at future stretching before them. I can't believe this is real. That I'm married. That I have a family. A year ago, none of this existed. Marcus pulled her close. You were never alone. You just couldn't see the people waiting for you to let them in. Zoe saw you immediately, drew you into her family portrait before you'd agreed to anything. Kate laughed. She knew before we did. Children usually do. They're not afraid of hope the way adults are. 6 months after the wedding, Sarah Washington Foundation awarded its first scholarships, 20 students from working-class backgrounds, receiving full funding for engineering degrees, mentorship from Sterling medical staff, pathway, from invisibility to opportunity. Marcus spoke at the ceremony. My wife Sarah believed education was the path to opportunity. She didn't live to see this foundation. But her daughter does, her husband does. And the family we've built honors her memory by ensuring other talented students don't remain invisible just because they lack resources. Sarah saw potential in everyone. This foundation extends that vision. Zoe presented the first scholarship, 9-year-old wisdom, evident. My mama Sarah would be proud of all of you. My mama Kate is proud of you. I'm proud of you. Work hard. Help people. Don't be invisible just because people don't see you yet. Make them see you. That's what my daddy did. Sterling Medical thrived under Kate's reformed leadership, cultural changes producing measurable improvements. Marcus's engineering division, recruited from unconventional sources, valued creativity over credentials. Kate balanced CEO responsibilities with family commitments, no longer working 16-hour days. The empire she'd built alone functioned better when built on connection. Family dinners became non-negotiable ritual reminder that people at the table mattered more than work waiting elsewhere. One evening, Zoe asked the question forming through months of observation. Mama Kate, do you ever wish you had a baby? Like a baby that was yours from the beginning? Kate's response was immediate, honest. No, sweetheart. I got exactly what I needed. You, a daughter who chose me, who taught me how to be a mother, who loved me before I knew how to love myself. Biology doesn't make family. Choice does. And I choose you. Every day. Forever. Zoe processed this satisfied. Good. Because I chose you too. You're my mama. Even if you didn't grow me in your belly, you grew me in your heart. That's what matters. Marcus and Kate exchanged glances. Recognition that their daughter possessed wisdom neither fully understood. Later, after Zoe slept, Marcus found Kate on their front steps, evening ritual of conversation and space between day and night. She's amazing. Kate's voice carried wonder and gratitude. She gets it from Sarah. The wisdom, the perception, the ability to see through pretense. Sarah was like that. Kate leaned against Marcus. Do you still miss her, Sarah? Marcus considered the question honesty important but complicated. Every day. But differently now. I miss who she was, what we had. But I'm not stuck there anymore. You helped me move forward. Not forget, I'll never forget. But move forward. Build new life that honors old life instead of being haunted by it. That's all I want. To honor your past while building our future. Not compete with Sarah. Just be part of what comes next. You are. You're exactly what comes next. What Zoe and I needed without knowing we needed it. They sat together on the front steps of their chosen home, Brooklyn Brownstone, containing family built from crisis and choice, from visibility, hard-won, and love carefully cultivated. The tower still stood in Manhattan, 42 stories of glass and steel. But Marcus Washington no longer worked there as janitor. He'd built something better. Something money couldn't buy, something corporate achievement couldn't measure. He'd built a home, a family, a life where love mattered more than visibility, where showing up mattered more than status, where choosing each other daily mattered more than any single heroic gesture. Kate Sterling had learned the same lesson, that empire was meaningless without people to share it, that success was hollow without love to give it meaning, that the best version of herself emerged not through isolation, but through connection. And Zoe Washington, wise beyond her years, understood what adults took decades to learn. Families aren't born. They're chosen. They're built through showing up, through loving when it's hard, through seeing each other clearly and choosing each other anyway. The janitor who saved the billionaire who saved the janitor, the daughter who saved them both by teaching them that love multiplies rather than divides, that hearts have infinite capacity when people choose vulnerability over protection. They'd all been invisible once. Now they were essential. Not because the world finally saw them, but because they'd learned to see each other. And that was everything.